So welcome back to the channel. I'm going to be doing analysis on the new trailer and things you might have missed, so let's get right into it. So from this frame we can see that the bar actually has a different layout, and also the bar looks pretty run down, which it didn't used to.
You Tommy? Detective Norman.
So the main thing in this frame is the city skyline, which looks amazing, and also the Juliana Bridge, which obviously has been expanded and looks more like the Golden Gate Bridge now. As we can see, many of the cars on the bridge are returning, and probably the standout ones for me are the Smith truck and the Ulver Airstream. Just a quick thing in this frame is that the police car is not a Schubert 6 or a Schubert 6 Extra. So this is clearly a new model of a police car that we haven't seen in the game before.
You've been in town 3 years.
So here we see the Lost Heaven Railroad. It's nice to see it in its original colour, and also that we're getting public transport back in the series. So this is an amazing frame for detail with many things to point out. Starting from the bottom of the frame and going up, here we can see a dog, which from my view seems to be a German Shepherd. So we'll actually now see dogs wandering the streets instead of just being in fenced off areas or just guarding places. I personally hope there's a pet the dog feature though. Moving on from that, we can finally see a Model T or a Model Ace, to use the Mafia name, and we see what seems to be two versions of this, the flatbed model and the Roadster. And finally, we see more returning cars and a man riding a motorcycle here. A quick thing to note, these two things here, in my initial viewing, I thought were horses, but on the second time in which I zoomed in, it turns they're actually just carts. Although it would be cool if you could ride horses in the game, and honestly I wouldn't be opposed to it.
They handed you the Morello case right out of the gate.
So we see here the end result of the mission Creme de la Creme, which means that we will be shooting him down as the ending. I doubt that they'd reanimate this whole entire cutscene just to accommodate for a couple more endings, say shooting him or pushing him off the bridge, but this seems to be the set ending for how Morello dies.
That's what the paper says, ain't it? And what's it to you?
So here we can see Tommy, just after he's helped Paulie and Sam escape in the mission An Offer You Can't Refuse. The only thing really different about this scene seems to be the lighting, which is only a candle, whereas last time it seemed to be some sort of overhead light.
Case must be getting pretty cold by now.
So here we can see that a trip to the country has been changed a bit, whereas you used to just go to the body on your own. Now Paulie and the other goons will actually follow you there.
Boy, you guys something might warm it up. Yeah.
Now here we can see what I can only assume to be Morello in his classic white suit. He's looking a bit fatter, which is understandable for he is a Don and a very rich man. Additionally, we can see him driving in a different car than his usual silver Fletcher. However, again, he's a rich Don, so he's going to have more than just one car.
I might have some.
I cannot tell where or when we will see this building. I originally thought it was on the mission Ordinary Routine, but with the Ulver Airstream in the background, it seems unlikely because it'd just be too early for that car to be there. The thing I did pick up on though is the horse painting here, which shows up in a lot of buildings in Mafia 1. I believe this scene to be the one from A Great Deal, and the character shooting seems to be Bill, the guy who sells us the whiskey. So this is the scene, of course, when Morello beats down on a guy who crashed into his car. I'm really glad this scene is back in the game. I thought it was a really important scene to highlight how the police actually turn a blind eye to Morello's crew, but to you, they're against you. Here we can see Tommy in the mission Moonlighting. You can see him wearing his trench coat that he wears originally, although I don't know if we'll be able to change this outfit now because of the new options, but in my personal opinion, I think they should lock it to this outfit. In this scene, we can see Tommy in the church on the mission The Priest, which is the mission that follows on from the whore. The mission that takes place in the Corleone Hotel. This is clearly after the shootout. However, there is only one person dead on the ground, which is a bit strange as you fight multiple gangsters in this section. And of course, finally, in the back, we see the councillor's son lying in the coffin. Here we can see Sarah, who I'm hoping will play a more prominent role in this game. Hopefully you'll be able to interact more with her and your daughter. And yes, if you didn't know, Tommy does have a daughter. Here we see Tommy on the mission Fair Play at the racing circuit. He's driving a race car, and this could be any of them, but my guess is that it's the Caesar 8C 2300 Racing. Now this frame is probably one of the most important because it shows us the most characters in one shot. From left to right we see Lucas Batone, Paulie, Sarah, Frank, Sam, and Mr. Salieri. This scene seems to be on the mission Better Get Used to It. If you don't know, that's the mission where you beat up some street hoodlums for harassing Sarah. This mission seems to have changed location, as originally this mission does not take place in Chinatown. Now here we can see someone's house being set on fire, and this could be a range of people. Anyone from Salieri, Sergio Morello, Morello himself, the prosecutor, or even Tommy's house. I think the most likely out of them though would probably be Sergio Morello, as this could be part of the mission, you lucky bastard. Here we can see Tommy dragging injured Sam in the mission A Trip to the Country. This is on the mission Bon Appetit, and it obviously shows the restaurant before the explosion, which is the screenshot that we saw a month ago. The hidden sort of detail in this is that Salieri's car is red and that his license plate is just a string of A's. This is clearly just a bug and I hope they fix this by the release of the game. This looks to be a new added mission where you'll have to ride a bike, or this could simply be in the open world, but my most likely theory is that it's just an added mission. This is the mission, you lucky bastard, on the dock section. We can see that the docks are laid out a lot different and seem to be smaller. However, this might just be the way that they're laid out, for we can see even more train tracks than we did originally, and the existing train tracks actually lead in a different direction than they did originally. Now here we can see that the train yard actually explodes, which means one of two things. Either Sergio Morello dies in this explosion, or we fight and kill Sergio Morello, and then the thing blows up. I would find it an interesting mechanic if we went in there, killed Sergio Morello, but had a timer until the thing exploded.
What do they call you?
And then we just heard Salieri's new voice, and honestly, despite really liking the original, I also really like his new one. Additionally, we can see what seems to be Frank in the background.
Thomas.
And finally, the last thing I want to point out about the trailer is this scene, which seems to be in the art gallery on the very last mission. So does this mean that we'll still be able to kill Sammy, or is there a different ending now?
Thomas Angelo, sir.
And that's my analysis. One final thing I want to point out is that Tommy sounds and looks a lot more like Henry from Mafia 2 than he does Tommy. But I've always liked Henry's voice, and I also like Tommy's new voice. Sure, it's nothing like it was, but I think the voice acting for Mafia 1 is finally going to be less awkward and more emotional. So I personally like the change. Other than that though, thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.